Oh, man. You know, when you travel so much, it's always nice to have a good laugh. Something that you come across that you just literally LOL. Not just letters you put in a text. Literally, you LOL because it's so damn funny. You know, this entire week, ever since TLC, I started to see again the same things I've been seeing since Goldberg defeated Bray Wyatt, the Fiend. And we were all, the wrestling world, was upset at that booking. It was absolutely atrocious. Something that should have never been done, just like Seth Rollins in The Fiend. Atrocious booking, should have never been done. But we started instantly when Seth Rollins beat The Fiend. We started to see and hear the words that Bray Wyatt was buried. And I couldn't help but think, well, he's one of the hottest characters in all of pro wrestling, having matches with Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell. So you can't really be buried. We could be upset at the booking. We can hope that it gets better. But if the character is on fire, lately, literally, and if he's in main events, then literally he can't be buried. But we started to see things like that. We started to see the Goldberg victory over The Fiend in just a couple of minutes. That was just befuddling to all of us. We literally could not stand that decision. But he's in matches with Goldberg for a reason. The character still was on fire. Again, lately, literally. But the character is one of the best in all of pro wrestling. He's in those big time matches. Whether you like the booking or not, I feel you. But you cannot say the dude's buried, because by definition, he's just not. And here he is in the main event yet again as one of the hottest characters in all of pro wrestling. In a major storyline where they literally burned this dude in the middle of the ring, and now he's going to come back as some super Bray Wyatt 5.0. And all of a sudden, here's the words again. He's buried. Bray is a joke. Now Bray Wyatt will never come back from this. What are we talking about? What are wrestling fans talking about? Not all. Thankfully, the amplified unit wrestling fans, I always like to put us on a different pedestal. We are the smartest group in all of pro wrestling. At least that's what I like to believe. But there is a huge portion out there that is literally on to the next. They are, as Daniel Bryan would say, fickle. Fickle to the point of befuddling. It's always good to have an opinion. Everybody should have their own opinion. Superstars they like and don't like. Matchups they like and don't like. Events. Stipulation matches, gimmick matches. Who they believe is on fire and not. Who they believe should get a push and who should not. But to throw the word buried out there, just like the word deserved. I can't stand that word in pro wrestling because to today's wrestling fan, everybody either deserves a championship, even if they're bottom of the barrel talent, or they're buried. They could just get to the roster and they're buried upon arrival, according to today's wrestling fan. I remember Keith Lee showed up, and within 7 days, I was starting to see Keith Lee is buried because he doesn't have the right music. He doesn't have his NXT music. I don't care if this dude showed up to the theme music of Pokemon. I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test. To train them is my cause. Pokemon! I don't care. If he's checking off every other box, you can't say the dude is buried. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. I know we throw words around. Oh, BC, we don't really mean it. We're just saying, it's stupid not to have his NXT theme music. Yes, I understand. I totally agree with you, by the way. There's business reasons why that was done. Still stupid. And I wish it wasn't. But of course, most of this stuff I agree with you guys. Just like The Fiend losing to Seth Rollins the way he did at Hell in a Cell. Especially to Goldberg. If you go back to those review videos, I flipped out. For good reason. It was justified. But you can't throw around certain words. Because then you have youngsters coming up, or you have wannabe smarks, which is smart marks. Those are the wannabe ones. Then you have the casuals. All of these people come together and they start hearing us fans who actually know what's going on, who actually know what's happening, and we're carelessly throwing around words like deserved and buried. And then other people that don't know what they're talking about start picking up those words. And then you start to see everyone on the interweb machine start saying things like, Bray Wyatt is buried. And people are scratching their heads going, but Bray Wyatt was just in the main event with Randy Orton, The Fiend. He literally is in a storyline where they burned him in the middle of the ring. And now through Alexa Bliss, they're building up the return already. This is a dude who has won the last 26 of his last 29 matches. That's not buried. So don't use the word. You want to use the word buried for somebody like Ricochet. I can be on board with that. Because Ricochet's booking has been absolutely tragic. No question. Now, Ricochet doesn't help his cause because he's a horrible promo. But still, you would have thought Ricochet would have been much more than he is. Again, he's got some own work to do with his character, with his promos for sure. To be a top guy, you gotta work your promo. But they did not help this dude at all. So if you want to throw the word buried on Ricochet, I won't come hard on that. Drew Gulak, fine. The guy's chasing around R-Truth for a Target championship, basically. A title you can find at Target. Because that's how prestigious it is. Or not so much. Again, Gulak is going to need more to his character as well if he wants to be a top guy. It has to be more than just wrestling talent. That's what makes Bray Wyatt so special. And for a big boy, Bray can still wrestle in that ring. He's actually good. But Bray has so many other levels. His character is one of the best in all of pro wrestling. His promo has always been one of the best. Starting from the Wyatt family. So when you check off all of these boxes, you can't say the dude is buried, or you can, but it just sounds really dumb to people like the Ant-Man who are sitting back going, this dude is literally the hottest character in all of pro wrestling. He is in the main events with dudes like Randy Orton, The Undertaker, Mark Calloway just recently said the words, Bray Wyatt is the closest to that Undertaker character. Bray Wyatt is one of the dudes that intrigues him the most. This is from Mark Calloway, but some dude on his couch with his keyboard in front of him is saying things like, Bray Wyatt is buried. This is stupid, burning him in the middle of the ring. How dare they do something really cool? This is what it's come to. This is back in the day. We'd be in awe of this. But because we're not getting a Dave Meltzer 6-star classic with 2 gymnasts, we're saying a dude as epic and awesome as Bray Wyatt the Fiend is buried. Dude didn't even lose flat on his back looking up at the lights getting pinned. No, he got burned. Literally, they did something that we've been asking for. Think outside the box. If Bray's needing some time off, this is a cool way to write him off. Alexa's gonna build him back up, and this dude's gonna come back. You gotta admit, even if you don't like Bray, the character, where it's headed, past booking, you have to admit on a lame, boring, redundant 3-hour Monday Night Raw every Monday, you would have to admit that Bray Wyatt's character, his promos, his segments are some of the best, most captivating, and it's arguably the only captivating part of Monday Night Raw every week. So if you are literally the best part of Monday Night Raw, how can you be buried? Just because you don't like the booking doesn't make somebody buried. When you win 26 out of your last 29 matches, when your only losses are to Seth Rollins and Goldberg. And I guess now you can throw Randy Orton into that category, even though most wrestling fans are not looking at what happened at TLC as a straight loss for The Fiend. We're looking at it as The Fiend just burned in the middle of the ring. And if you ask the Amplified man, that's a pretty cool damn way to be written off TV. If you requested time off around the holidays or several weeks off, just like Alexa Bliss recently did, that's a cool way to be written off TV. The dude burned in the middle of the ring. This is what we always ask WWE to do, think outside the box. But no, immediately after you saw Keyboard Warriors, that was lame, that was stupid. You could tell that wasn't The Fiend burning. Well, I would hope not. But these days, everybody just wants to use wrestling terminology to sound smart. They deserve a championship. This dude's buried. Did you see him? He showed up without his original theme music. Buried. This dude lost 2 matches in a row. Buried. No, you want buried? You start talking Shayna Baszler. Even with a championship, this gal cannot buy a victory over Lana, Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke. They'll protect Nia Jax. They won't give Shayna Baszler shit. I truly believe having a championship was just so Nia Jax had a championship. I believe this was all just to make Nia Jax relevant. Just like Asuka has a championship currently, and this is all right now. Everything she's been doing the past several months has been first to make Lana relevant, because Asuka's just been playing the sister to Lana, the older sister trying to protect Lana. It's all been about Lana's storyline with Nia Jax. And then when that was done, and Vince McMahon got bored of that, he inserted Charlotte Flair into the equation. So I believe Asuka now is just playing the sister to Charlotte. The only difference is with Lana, Asuka was the older sister, protecting Lana. Now Charlotte Flair has all the spotlight. Don't believe me? Check out the loss that Shayna Baszler took last Sunday at TLC. It was to Charlotte, not your champion Asuka. Check out how Bianca Belair, one of your bright shining new stars, just lost this past week. It was to Charlotte Flair, not Asuka. Start talking about that booking. And even then, be careful when you use the word buried. Bad booking is one thing. Buried is a whole nother level. But keep your eye on Baszler, because within the next 6 months, we may be using the word buried, and then it would be justified. Keith Lee is another one. Just because he shows up with different music or an outfit that you don't agree with does not make him buried. Now, if he continues to consistently lose matchups, if he does not get pushed toward the main event within the next 6 months even, if he continues to be bottom of the barrel booking, no creativity for him on the pre-show or not even on the show, then BC will be with you in using that word for Keith Lee. No question. But you can't use it for everybody, because what happens is the younger fan base, the casual fan base, starts hearing your words and seeing your words on the interweb, and they start using the words for everybody like The Fiend. And then somebody like BC's gonna come across these words and say, well, that doesn't make sense, because somebody like BC actually does my research. I know my facts. And I know that The Fiend Bray Wyatt was just in the main event of the last WWE pay-per-view. The main event. I know that my facts tell BC that He's the only bright spot of a 3-hour show every Monday night. That Fiend segment, whether it's a Firefly Funhouse or Bray in the middle of the ring, is going to be the most captivating part of the entire 3-hour show. How's that buried? My facts tell me that Bray Wyatt just won 26 out of his last 29 matches. That's not buried. You can't put him in the same category as Aleister Black or a Ricochet. But people do, and it's today's wrestling fan. It's so easily done. They can be on board with Bray Wyatt one day, and the next day, he's a clown. He's stupid. This is dumb. Firefly Funhouse is stale. But the New Day's fine with them, right? New Day could be around for 7 fucking years with the same shtick. But that's fine. The Firefly Funhouse, which to me is entertaining as all hell. You can give me an hour of the Firefly Funhouse, and that'll be more entertaining than anything on Monday Night Raw every Monday. But that's stale. The Fiend is already buried. Bray Wyatt is done. It's over for him. What are you talking about? These people are so traumatized by what happened with Rollins and Goldberg with the Fiend that they can't get over it. They cannot get over it. It's like a childhood trauma for them. Trust me, I was just as angry. I was more angry than probably most of you if you heard those reviews after those matchups. But you can't just start throwing around wrestling terminology like deserved and buried just to sound smart. That has to stop with today's wrestling fan. They have to stop trying to sound smart, and they have to start doing their research and getting their facts in order so they can actually be smart. And that's the divide in today's wrestling world. You have too many people trying to sound smart on the interweb machine. Too many people, youngsters too, kids, throwing around the word buried and deserved. Kids! A lot of them trying to start up their own YouTube channels and review wrestling. And that's kind of sad, actually. Because I remember just being a fan when I was younger and just trying to enjoy the product. And in today's wrestling world, man, the product absolutely fucking sucks for the most part. Sorry, not sorry, Vince. The WWE has sucked for the better part of 10 years now. So I don't even know if youngsters can enjoy it, but the fact that they're actually trying to review it instead of just being a fan or choosing not to be a fan because the product is so damn bad, but to watch kids now trying to review wrestling, it's kind of sad to me, because at that age, you don't know what you're talking about. It's just the truth. You can't have a 10-year-old talking pro wrestling like they know what they're talking about because they haven't been around long enough to know what they're talking about. They have to watch all of those videos back in the 60s and 70s. They have to know what they're talking about through the 80s era. They have to know what happened in the 90s. They have to dissect a week-to-week basis during the Monday Night Wars. They have to know who people like Buddy Nature Boy Rogers are. They have to know who the Iron Sheik was and Sergeant Slaughter. They have to know who Tito Santana and Rick Martel and Mr. Perfect and the Big Boss Man and Akeem and the One Man Gang. You can put that as a slash, I guess. Akeem, One Man Gang. You have to know who dudes like Bam Bam Bigelow and King Kong Bundy and Paul Orndorff. You have to know these names. You can't just know Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, The Undertaker. You can't just know the big names. Nowadays, you're seeing kids trying to review this stuff. That takes years. Trust me, I was dissecting pro wrestling as a kid. I always looked at wrestling differently, and that's why I take great pride in what I do today, is because It's not just me knowing that I know what I'm talking about, but thousands of people know that I know what I'm talking about. But that took decades, man. You can't just dissect things as a kid and just be like, I'm going to start my show now. I'm going to tell WWE what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right, who's buried, and who deserves shit. No, man, relax. Sit back, watch that shit for years and years. And when you're older, when you're an adult, if you think you can handle the responsibility of critiquing this the right way, then do it up. The problem with today's wrestling fan is everybody wants to be a critic, even when they're not good at it. Even when they literally don't know what they're talking about. Everybody wants to be a critic. Because with the interweb machine, everybody thinks they can do such. Their opinion can be out there with just a click of a button. Words hold power, man. They really do. And if you're going to say somebody's buried, you better have the facts to back it up. You can't just say, well, look what happened with Goldberg. Look what happened with Rollins. Because then I can bring up 26 times over the last 29 matchups where Bray Wyatt was raised hand in victory. Come on, bro. You gotta have facts. You gotta tell me who the brightest spot on Monday Night Raw is every Monday night. I know who it is. It's The Fiend. That, again, is not buried. You gotta tell me who was just in the main event in a crazy storyline where the dude was burned in the middle of the ring. That was The Fiend. You can't say this dude is in the category of Ricochet, Drew Gulak, or a fucking Aleister Black. Because the facts don't back up your statement. It's cute and it's cuddly if you want to say these words, but I'd appreciate it if you cut the shit. Because what's happening is casual fans, younger fans are starting to get wind of that, and they're using this like they know what they're talking about. Ah, man, you know, I always say I started this channel to make pro wrestling better, man. I'm helping. I'm trying to anyway. This is not helping. Everybody's a critic. Bray Wyatt, long story short, all right, I know that was a long rant. I actually want to talk about Daniel Bryan in a second too, but the bottom line, guys, is that it's not opinion. This is a fact, and this may hurt a lot of people. This is a fact. Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, he's nowhere near buried. Not only is it, did you think this, this was a discussion. Some people think he's buried, some people don't, BC. It's all just opinion. No, it's not an opinion. I actually have the facts for you. If you would just listen for a second, or throughout this whole fucking rant, I have been trying to lay down one fact after another. The Fiend Bray Wyatt, factually, is nowhere near buried. So if you hear somebody telling you that he's buried, tell him to please promptly shut the fuck up. And then you could promptly give them facts or literally just walk away from the convo. Because sometimes there's no getting through to stupidity. There's just no getting through to people that refuse to smarten themselves up. Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, far from buried. I hope I was able to clear this up for you. Just do what the Amplified Man does. From here on out, don't even entertain that type of stupidity. Because it's just, it's people trying to be a critic, but they don't actually have the credentials to be such. And I also want to talk about Daniel Bryan, guys, because I forgot to mention this on the SmackDown review this past week. I've been doing so much traveling that I'm just trying to give you guys a good review when I can find a half an hour here and there. Just like I'm doing right now, where I had a half an hour on the road, and I wanted to talk some pro wrestling with you guys, man. I tried to do that for the SmackDown review, and I say condensed, but that review was even over a half an hour, I believe, or at least at the half an hour mark. So it was still a damn solid review, but I did forget to mention Daniel Bryan announcing that he's going to be the first entrant into next year's Royal Rumble. And this has people talking about Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns now. I'm just not on board. To me, The Rock versus Roman is the match. Now, I know that it's looking a lot less likely for this year, and now we're starting to talk about 2022 WrestleMania 38. because 2020 has backed up so many productions, The Rock's schedule has tightened up around WrestleMania. But even just a few weeks ago, it was a lot more loose, and it looked like it could happen because that storyline is sitting in their lap. Could you imagine the guy who calls himself the tribal chief and he's degrading all of his family members, and he's saying that he is the breadwinner, and without him, they can't feed their individual families? Could you imagine if the real tribal chief of that family, The Rock, showed up to put Roman in his place? The storyline is sitting in their lap, and I just can't trust WWE with this story for over another year to get us to 2022 WrestleMania 38. That's why I was really hoping it happened this year. I'm still holding out hope, but it's looking unlikely. We'll see. But now everyone's starting to think about, could it be Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns? I'm not on board, A, because I've seen this match already in the past, and B, this is a shell of what Daniel Bryan once was. It's not the same Daniel Bryan going into 30 who had that passion and wrestling was the be-all, end-all. Now Daniel Bryan has the full family. Daniel Bryan has said multiple times that wrestling, at least for Daniel Bryan, it's kind of nearing to the end, and he's thinking about retirement and settling down with the family. And that's awesome for Daniel Bryan. But what does that say about going into Mania 37 then? I mean, is Daniel Bryan winning the Royal Rumble, and then we're supposed to all make believe that this is WrestleMania 30 again, and we're all supposed to try and recreate that feeling of when Daniel Bryan hoisted that championship at 30? It's not the same feeling. We all know that Daniel Bryan has said himself it's toward the end of the road career-wise. And wrestling has taken a backseat to the family, which should be the case. But then that's not the same Daniel Bryan, and he's been booked in the mid-card since he's came back, basically. And he's been fine with that because, in his words, he's gotten more time off whenever he wants it because he hasn't been in main storylines. So not only has he been booked in the mid-card, but he's fine with it. And now, all of a sudden, what happens, guys? He wins the Rumble, and all of a sudden, it's the Daniel Bryan we once loved. Or we still do. I can't say once. We still love Daniel Bryan, but that's our main event for WrestleMania. That's the best we can do for Roman. I'd rather see fucking Edge come back at this point. Give me something fun. Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns in a rematch when Daniel Bryan is nowhere near the Daniel Bryan of 30. Roman's doing the best work of his career right now. Let's have something bigger. But I will say this, anything's better than Goldberg versus Roman. You know, I have no problem if you want to bring back Goldberg to injure somebody. Fine. But why does Goldberg always have to come back in a title picture? Why can't Goldberg just come back in an exhibition match? That's what frustrates me, man. But is there worse people out there to go against Roman at WrestleMania than Daniel Bryan? Absolutely. But is that the best that WWE can do? Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns? Stop it. I don't even need to see Daniel Bryan win the Rumble. If WWE booked this dude differently this whole last year, then maybe, if there was a better storyline as to why I should care about Daniel Bryan winning the Rumble, then I'd be on board. But if the storyline is this is the one thing Daniel Bryan has never done in his career, I'm gonna need more than that, guys. If that's the case, give this motherfucker to somebody like Keith Lee. Let Aleister Black finally break out. There's better options out there. You know, I understand about roster split. There's no real split anyway. Anybody from Raw can win and go and take on Roman Reigns. Whether they win the Rumble or not, Vince McMahon is always taking people and moving them to the other show. It doesn't matter about any brand split. You win the Rumble, you pick the fucking champion you want to go against. There's much better options. If you truly want to see Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, that's cool. That's one of those instances where that is your opinion, and that's validated. That's cool, man. Personally, the Amplified Man does not want to see this match at all. I'm not even 5% on board. But if you are, cool. Maybe you're going to end up getting that. We'll see, man. But I did want to touch up on Daniel Bryan winning the Rumble and how this is just not the best thing WWE can do at all. They could do much better. But it's WWE we're talking about. Maybe they can't do any better. Maybe they don't realize they can do better. Maybe they literally can't do any better. Maybe they suck so bad They don't know where to go. Daniel Bryan is maybe their safest bet. They're already using up Kevin Owens for multiple months against Roman. So once Owens is thrown to the wayside, Daniel Bryan will probably be the only one left, is what they're thinking. I don't know, man. But I can't wait for The Rock. I wish it was this upcoming WrestleMania because the storyline fits perfectly for that matchup. Can I trust WWE to do this another whole fucking year? Probably not. Most likely not, actually. But we'll see. Before I end this impromptu audio recording, guys, for you guys, this slight cast, if you will, half podcast, I want to again salute Brodie Lee, Luke Harper, Jon Huber. I already put out that tribute video yesterday for Jon. But it calls for another salute to this guy. And whether you're raising up your coffees or you're raising up a beer, some champagne, some bubbly, or just raising up your sodas, a glass of milk, raise it up, man, and salute this dude. This is one dude who had so much untapped potential. There was so much more in this business for this guy, and he was just starting to scratch the surface in AEW. WWE held him down. It wasn't horrible booking. I mean, the Wyatt family I still love the Wyatt family. But when it was time for Luke Harper on his own to captivate, I don't think WWE truly allowed him to do such. AEW allowed him to do such. He was just starting to do such, and all of a sudden, boom, he was taken off TV, and then all of a sudden we hear of why. But anyway, absolutely salute to Jon Huber, Brodie Lee, and formerly known as Luke Harper. I don't know, man. It's just, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but much love, much respect to Jon's family, loved ones, and gone but never forgotten. That's all I'll say about that, man. Much love. And to all you guys, man, I'll try to put out another, hopefully I could do the Raw review this week. Again, so much traveling, but I am trying to find time here and there to record for you guys. So whether it's audio format or not, hopefully I can get something out for you guys for the Raw review, either tomorrow or it may be delayed, but maybe a day. But be on the lookout, be subbed and notified. And please, I ask again, please don't throw around words like buried or deserved or all that wrestling terminology unless it actually fits the occasion, the character, the event, the matchup, whatever the situation. Please make it make sense. Thank you. And again, much love to Jon Huber and his family and loved ones, man. Always in our hearts and minds. Check you later.